Today I'm gonna show you how you can sample, use your own sounds, create your own sounds in your production. I'm gonna show you the settings, a basic workflow, a bit of sound design, and I'm showing you how you can make your own kick sounds and so on. So let's start with the basic setup of your Octatrack. We have to find out from where we're gonna sample. So my synthesizers are connected to A and B, so I'm just gonna open here on track number 5 through input A and B, putting one trigger at the beginning. Now we go to track number 1 and we set up our recording channel for A and B. So while track 1 is activated, we hold down function and record 1, and then we get to the recording setup screen 1. There are 2 actually, and the third one does some stuff that we might use later, but not now. Okay, so on setup screen 1, you can select which inputs should be considered when recording, and by default it's set to all of them. So we disable in C and D. We only want to record from A and B. We know we only have a loop of 16 steps, so we put the recording length to 16 as well. Then in the bottom row we get trick, source 3, and loop on. Now it might not be obvious at first because nothing really changes other than that you see another screen appearing on your display. But what also is changed is the layer of these tricks. So effectively you enter another set of 8 tracks, but just for recording, and there you can define your very own set of tricks, indicating where you want to start recording or not. While you see this screen here, go into the recording mode and putting down function and then placing your trigger. Then it starts flashing, and then you know it's correct. And I will show you in a second why I am doing it this way. That's it for this setup now. Now let's go to setup screen 2, function rec 2. And there we can see F in, F out, A, B, Q, rec, Q, PL, C, D. Sounds all very confusing, but actually it means fade in and fade out. So when you're looping stuff like melodies, for example, like you have an arpeggiator running on your synthesizer and you just want to loop it at a certain length, like we said here, which is 16, then might be a good idea to add these little fades at the beginning and end of the recording so you can avoid those clicks when it repeats. So that's all we got to do here. Now we can leave this menu. And next thing we got to do is select the flex machine. So we double tap source, go one back so we get into the machine selection menu, and select flex, and then we go right, and then we get into the slot list of the flex machine. You can see that at the top it says flex, and here you get all those recording slots, and this allows you to select a recording buffer of the track. Every track has a recording buffer, but on flex you can access them and audition them when you place a trigger, just like you would on a through track, for example. So we selected that we want to audition recording 1 on this track while also recording on this track. So we go into record mode and place one trigger at the beginning. So to reiterate, we need 2 triggers on this flex recording channel or track, and that is one for playing back the recording slot number 1, and the other is when we're in record mode, which is here the silent trigger. And those are the 2 that we need. Trigger is blinking. That means it's waiting for a signal, or basically it wants us to arm the track so it does its thing in the time that we gave it. Now when we press the up key, we arm a track. We press yes, I mean. And then you can see there's a second locator coming in as soon as it starts recording. Let's do it again. You can see it basically tells you when it's recording and at what position. Okay, So next thing we do is set up the MIDI track. So we go into MIDI, find the empty channel, or track I mean, double tap the source button to get into the node setup, find the channel for the machine that we want to use. In my case it's 8 because that's my Neutron synthesizer. And then we can play some triggers here and start playing. Okay, now why did I place this blinking recording trigger? Let's go back into the record mode for a second. You see this one, this is what I'm talking about. Function and then the step you want. This allows me at any point during the session to arm the track and then get a 16-step recording or whatever lengths I've set up here of the current loop that is playing. Let me demonstrate. So this is now recorded. Now I'm going to change the sound on the synthesizer to something else. And now I just press yes. And you can see it says below that arm and disarm. Now recording, done. Can repeat that whenever I want. Now I change something on the synthesizer, a bit longer. And it also is in time with the sequence because it waits for the trigger. So you can say arm, change a value, and be sure that it will only start recording on the 1. I want to create a kick drum, or kick bass drum, however you want to call it. I like to call them kicks. So at first what I'm going to do is I usually dial down all the envelopes to make sure we just get the click. Kick usually is a short impulse of bass, and so we need a short envelope for that. So let's start with just a decay. So I'm not using any sustain here. So it doesn't matter how long the sequencer sends the note. Okay, just with that, we have still a very sharp envelope, so we got a audible attack phase where you get a little click sound and also a click at the end. Get this. Now to remove the click, just add some release at the end, add some attack. Now we almost just get the burst of the wave and no longer the clicking of the envelope. Okay, next thing is to find a wave shape that is more in favor of the sound that we want to create. So we want to have a nice bass, so let's go with a sine wave. And then we need to find an octave range that works. On the Octatrack, on the Neutron, you have the choice between 3 octave ranges, or when you press a 4th time, then you get into this mode, and then it's free. So you can go by ear, find a nice deep frequency that you like. So at this point I would say the kick could be a bit longer, so add some release. Maybe some drive to make it a bit louder. Okay, now we could try to find a frequency that we want to boost. For that we're gonna use the filter and a filter envelope. It's envelope 2 down here. So for that we dial up the envelope depth here, so it's mixed in, and I don't know, put it on like 50, and then again start with decay and increase the resonance to boost. Maybe not too much. You could also try a different filter shape, for example, the bandpass, to get a more squelchier attack. And also fun to sometimes just try get a different tuning. Okay, now we could try to add more harmonics by introducing the second oscillator. Yeah, well, you have to always have something in mind when you're working on this. It can take a long time, and also it depends on the style of music that you're going for. Let's make it a bit more sensible. So it's a bit quiet for my taste, so let's increase the volume here. Okay, that sounds alright. So now let's record it. So let's play. And now we press yes to arm track. Recording done. Okay, now we can mute the through track, unmute our flex track, and hear the playback. We can also now open AED to see the waveforms. Can zoom in. And there it is. So let's dive in here. Nice. All right. Now we go to File, and we say Save and Assign Sample. Now we can give it a nice name, 1. Now it asks me, should it assign to itself? That means the current flex track. Assign to a free flex, if there is any other, or free static. I want free static because the rest here is all static slots. It assigns automatically to the first free one, which is static. It's a new project, of course. Now we can exit out with no. Go to a static. We can mute the flex track for now. We no longer hear it. Then double tap, and there's our kick. We assign it to track number 2 and place it. And there we have it, our own sampled kick drum from our own synthesizer that we sculpted. I added a bit of tail to fill it up, because you can always remove a tail with an envelope, and of course you got envelopes too on the Octatrack. And here, what first you gotta do if you want to work with such a short sample that is only on one step, put it on 1, and then the release actually starts to matter, as you can hear. So I can shorten it myself. That's why it's a good idea to give it a bit more length so you can play with that. For example, I could parameter lock this to scene B of my slider, but shorted, and then when the time is right, now you can go ahead and do any other sound that you like, that you have in mind for your own production. For example, a snare, a clap, a hi-hat, something like that. Another thing that I want to mention is that I'm using these top 2 tracks just for producing samples for this project to fill my static list. I could, of course, for every synthesizer that I own, I could set up its own recording buffer on its own channel and so on. There are many ways to do it. I mean, the Octatrack is a Swiss Army knife in that regard. I like to do it this way because when you work with recording buffers, there's always the chance that you overwrite a buffer by accident, or that you lose your buffer when you turn off the machine. The recording buffer isn't permanent. So by doing it this way, I know exactly what sound I'm currently working on, and then I save it to a spot that can't be deleted. So I'm just, basically this is my workspace here, these two, and the other tracks, they're just to accept the new samples that I just created on them. Okay, so now let's make the hi-hat. Also a very basic sound, but of course we need some notes. So yeah, let's go here. We can just change here the triggers. Oh, by the way, if you just want to shift triggers around, you just hold down function and press left or right, and then you can move them around. Open the through track, and now we're going to hear the live sample again. Again, a short burst. Don't need the filter envelope for now, I'm resetting it. Now increased noise. Yay, we got a hi-hat. And just like any other oscillator, you can scope it through the envelope. So we got decay, release, sustain. Let's go and record this. We're on the audio side. And now let's record it. Okay, that's it. Now it's recorded. Now let's use trim. Now we go into the file menu, save and assign sample. Assign to free static. Now we go again on an empty track, double tap source, select our sample, and place triggers. Mute flex, play. Okay, that's part number 2 of our little drum kit here. Now let's go back to sound design. Again, we're staying with noise. Okay, the goal here is to make a snappy snare clap thingy. Okay, sounds good enough for me. Back to sampling. Super easy, blazingly fast. Audio, flex, arm. That's it. Okay, save and assign sample. Assign to free static. Snare Neutron 1. Mute. Enable the other parts. Okay, add some reverb. Yeah, next thing I would say, let's make a bass line. I removed the attack. Okay. Maybe change the melody up a little bit. Okay. There's our bass line. Okay, let me change the bass line a little bit. Okay, not exactly what I wanted, but this is where I went. Okay, without further ado, let me jump into a quick demonstration. I added a little loop and a vocal sound. Here we go. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you learned a thing or two about sound design and how to sample and how to add it to your project. The rest is basically the same ways, and then of course start to structure, make breakdowns, work with effects, and so on. Yeah, I hope you liked it. See you in the next one. Bye.